morning, traders. I'm Dennis Dick.
And I'm Joel Elkanah, and welcome to Premarket Info.
Jobs report is out. Muted activity in the S&P. We bounced around a couple of points. We're up 4, but pretty quiet overall. Unemployment rate remains the same at 7.8%. What's moving this morning? We're going to analyze this. And there's been some key upgrades and downgrades. Goldman Sachs talking about the financials. Joel, what about this jobs number?
Kind of quiet. You gotta wonder. I mean, they did not take the market down at all. Got a little reaction down just to the close. We've held Thursday's low, 1450, 1451 and a quarter being the low as we speak. So, hey, as long as we hold that level, we're good to go to the upside. We do have some major resistance to deal with. 1460.50 was our high yesterday. And then going back to September 14th, we have a high at 1461.75. So just the way we're going up now and analyze the activities, I mean, there's sellers here. There's people letting go of stock. That doesn't mean that we can't go up and test those levels.
Yeah, I think we'll get up to that 1461 area again, probably test there. It's about 4 points higher than we are now. Matter of whether we can slowly scratch our way through there and start to break out here, because that's where the key resistance is. I'm surprised at how quiet the activity was. It was kind of quiet before, and it's kind of quiet after the jobs numbers. So not a lot of action here, but there is action, Joel, in the financials. We've got Goldman Sachs is upgrading Citigroup here this morning. Citigroup is up at 41.90 for that. It's through that key 42, or it actually just traded just briefly through that $42 level. Still might be some resistance in the 41.90s though, as those high frequency traders leaning on that 42.
Yeah, you snuck above that in the pre-market. Not by much. 42.02. Probably some nice sellers in the book there at that level. Coming back on the downside. I mean, we just got to look at that gap area. If you start to fall back, below that $41 area, 40.70 low, I would look for a little bit of a pullback.
And then J.P. Morgan, Goldman Sachs actually downgrading J.P. Morgan here this
Dennis,
morning.
I'm sorry to interrupt you. I know this is not a live show, but Apple's on some critical support here at 541, and it's taking it out. So be careful if you're long Apple if you're listening to this.
Yeah,
ahead,
Apple
Dennis.
540 trading right now. We can go to that just for a second here. Obviously, we talked about Apple being up here and having a little bit of trouble in that whole 550 area, but Apple is turning over here this morning. I'm not sure the catalyst for that, if it's just some profit taking from this recent rally or not, but Apple down $2.50 when the market's up a couple of points. Going back to the J.P. Morgan, though, Goldman Sachs downgrading J.P. Morgan here. Stock is trading down 8 cents at 44.49, 44.44 now. Was trading a bit lower this morning, but has popped up a bit here with the overall market.
Yeah, kind of similar ranges yesterday. We talked about a nice round number like 45, with the institutions. Couldn't quite get there yesterday. You got to remain bullish this stock until it takes out the double bottom from 44.20 to 44.22. And then just like all these other stocks we're talking about, there's a gap down. I mean, if you feel comfortable being long these stocks with the gaps underneath them, that's fine. But use a stop and have some reference points.
Also, Wells Fargo, Goldman Sachs downgrading them as well, and that stock's trading down just 10 cents here. So interesting that they're not trading down a little bit more here, considering Goldman is probably your most influential broker when they're or influential analyst here. Looking at that trend that I've drawn from the lows, the bottom of that trend line is down there around $34. So it's probably pretty safe to say the uptrend is still intact until you get below 34 here.
I mean, even though the stock has had a nice run from the low 35s, or from the low 31s, you got to look at this $35 area. It came up and filled the gap. Someone sniffing around there, probably not showing their piece actually at 35, but that's where they want to get out. Got out at 35.04 was a high, and 35.07. Look out below, right where we're traded, 34.61. We take that out, and there's really no support to speak of until you get minor support at 34.20 and then 34.
Yeah, you're getting into a gap area there again from 34.80 34.18 to yesterday's low of 34.61. So whenever you have those gaps, they can fill rather quickly. So you want to be careful if you're trying to pick a bottom in this thing, especially on a Goldman Sachs downgrade. Deutsche Bank upgrading USB this morning. It's trading up about 30 cents. So lots of financials here moving around.
Yeah, look at that 33 number though.
Big.
You gotta respect that 32.96, 32.98, and also if you go back to November 8th, 32.96 was a high. So you probably have some sneaky institution, looking at that level. If it did get through there, I still wouldn't get real excited. Coming back on the downside, you basically got a double bottom, 32.40, 32.44. So to protect some longs, sell stop at that area may be prudent.
Sticking with the upgrades and downgrades, just leaving the financial sector though for a second. Target, which had a great day yesterday, continuing to move up here today on an upgrade from Janney Capital. It's trading 60.60 right now after closing at 60.16. Yesterday's high probably give you a little initial resistance, 60.78.
Yeah, then even if you go back a little bit farther than that, you had a high at 61.03 on December 20th. I mean, this is one of these moves that you have to just try and analyze. Is it just a dead cat bounce off a downtrend that we've had since September, or is the stock really finally turned things around and headed north again? I'd need to see some closes above the $61 level to convince me on the upside.
One of your favorites, Microsoft, getting downgraded at Janney Capital here, or I'm sorry, at Argus today. They are citing weak Surface sales and also a slow adoption of the Windows 8. Stock's trading down only 3 cents right now. I mean, Argus isn't that influential, but what are you thinking here? Obviously, we got back up into your resistance area that you talked about, the 27.73 just a couple days ago. I have gotten rid of my Microsoft position now. What's your take?
Boy, I tell you, I tweeted it out yesterday. We've been in basically this
Channel.
range from 20tradethechannels.com.
Yeah.
26.34, and then we made a couple attempts at the 27.70 area, 77. We had a high, 73. I don't think you really can step into this stock again until it gets back under 27. I'll be focusing on the double bottom from Wednesday and Thursday, 27.15 to 27.16. If it takes that out, I think we're going to slide back under 27, perhaps 26.70, 26.75.
I mean, when you get the channels this defined, I think just play those channels. Obviously, the upper end's up at the 27.70 area, and the lower end's down in the mid 26s. So that's what's been working, and that's what continues to work here. Eli Lilly is actually raised their guidance this morning for the full year, 375 to 390 they see now. Estimates were down at 371, so Lilly's getting a nice lift here. It's trading $50.60 this morning, which is up about 90 cents from the 4 o'clock close.
Yeah, that's a big move for Lilly there, and not a ton of volume once again. Yeah, could be painting the tape here. 50.31 was yesterday's high. We are going to use, the 2-day high at 50.31. I'd use that as a mild support. That $51 level is kind of sticking out like a sore thumb here. Actually, it hasn't even got there. 50.76 was the high that you had on December 11th, and then you go back a little bit farther, and you had you got a high at 50.81 and 51. So that whole 50.80, 51 level, I think that's going to be major resistance here, even with the
Yeah, I tend to agree with you here. I tend to
Yeah.
agree with you here. You definitely have some resistance up here in this whole 51 area. We're at 50.65 bid right now, so we are approaching up to there. If it started getting through 51, maybe you can continue to run. But you got to remember one thing: drug stocks move more on drugs than they do on guidance and stuff like that. They've obviously that Alzheimer's drug that they've got kicking in the back burner. News out there is what's going to really move this stock in the future. It is getting a nice lift on their guidance raise, but I don't see this thing just taking off and going up another buck here from after being up $1. It's a pretty thick issue. Looking at a few other ones here. Let's look at Facebook because we got up there again above 28. We talked about it yesterday. Every time this thing gets above 28, it peels back. Did it again yesterday. Got up to 28.45 and then just started selling off and closed 27.77.
Yeah, I mean, you would probably thinking when it was, cruising through the 20s and 30s that, this was the day it was going to go up and take out that high. And boy, that thing just had an intraday reversal.
Yep.
Came back, settled just off the low of the day. I'm looking at 27, 59, 42, those two lows. I mean, just to be safe, if it dips below 27.40, you might want to look to exit this stock. Coming back on the upside, this whole now that the 28.18 has lost significance, if you're shorting this thing, you might have to wait till it gets up closer to 28.50.
Missed one on the upgrades. Johnson & Johnson getting upgraded at Deutsche Bank today. That stock is trading up 45 cents with that upgrade. I've actually got a trading position on in Johnson & Johnson for full disclosure. But what's your take here, Joel, J&J today?
I don't think it's going to open up that high. And the reason for that being is I know there was a lot of stock hanging out at 71 there. They'll probably keep the orders there. I don't know if this news, on 7,000 shares is going to be able to, wipe out all that size at 71, or maybe it will give them a better fill, 71.10. But using that $71 level was a double top. If it doesn't hold that, I expect it to fall back into the mid-70s.
Yeah, if I could buy that thing at 71 on the open, I think I would be doing it. So that's just for my own personal. I'm actually short the stock right now, so I've got to get covered in here somewhere too. I had an overnight trade, which I got dinged on an upgrade. Sometimes that happens to you. So hopefully, for my sake, that it can pull back a bit from here. But obviously, I'm looking at trying to lighten up my short and possibly get long here if it pulls back a bit more. Let's move on to Apple. You talked about it earlier. It has continued to break down a bit here. We're at 538.48.
Yeah.
You talked about that 541 being critical. Obviously, that was the low just from yesterday. Now that it's trading below that low and it's getting into this whole gap area, where do you think this is heading?
Well, you had more, Dennis, than just yesterday's low. You had Wednesday's low at 541.63.
Right.
So that's as close to double bottom as you're going to get in a $500 stock. It did take that out, and now it's starting to meander its way here. Really don't see any great support here in the 530s. You need to fill the gap down to 535.40. That would be the next support point, and then the close on Monday was Monday was 532.17. So those are going to be your major support levels.
May as well talk about Google too here because they often does move with Apple, but not this morning. Google is trading up $2.50 here when Apple is trading down. It was a good day for Google yesterday until it actually started to peel back later in the day, but it actually got up a 732 area before the afternoon sell-off hit it, knocked 10 points off it. Getting a little bit of that back today. What's your take on the Goog?
Yeah, I was talking about that not making a new high for the move, and it showed me up yesterday. Still looks a little frothy here to me. If you're not going to try and pick a top on this thing selling, I think below 715, I'd be a little bit scared about going back down to 700.
Wanted to highlight one area in General Electric. I know a lot of our listeners do trade General Electric, and this $21 area has been accumulating some sizable bids here. Obviously, yesterday's low 21.05 coincides with that $21 level. Got to think those high-frequency guys are probably going to be buyers here in the low 21s. So just wanted to make you guys aware of that. What's your take here, Joel?
Yeah, that would fill the gap that GE had from Monday to Wednesday. So, I mean, from a technical perspective, I see where that $21 comes into play. Just another thing, when I was looking at the charts last night, I saw a formation in Coca-Cola. I don't think I've ever seen this before. 2 days in a row, it closed on the high of the day at the exact same price, $37.60.
Yeah, weird.
Now I see it in the pre-market. I see it snuck up here to $37.70, but I keep a whole lot. I mean, if you want to be a bull, that is support right now. I think if it takes that out, I think you could be in for a little bit of a dip, maybe back into yesterday's low was $37.11, which would be like a a career long-term gain in Coca-Cola for 50 cents, but that's the next support
Yeah,
level.
I've got a short position on a Coca-Cola here as well. If it starts to take out and get above that 37.60 area, I'm going to get nervous with that position. But I do see the same double top that you were looking at, hoping it can peel back to. So we'll have to see how that works out for me. Overall market thoughts here. We are just kind of bouncing around. We're here at 1456 now, up 2.5 points. Very quiet activity considering all the economic data that we just got. Obviously, we've talked about resistance here. If the stocks start to get, or if the index starts to get up that 1461 area, that has been resistance. Yesterday's low and today's low, 1450 and 1451. Got to think you might find a little bit of support there.
Oh, I think so. I mean, as long as it holds that level, you really can't get real bearish. Going up on the upside, I just think it's just thick here. I think it's gonna once you start getting up toward that 1460, 1462 level, I think sellers are lining up. I think if you're a little bit longer term of a swing trader and looking to short this market, you have a reference point here with the SPOOs up at 14, 56, 57, using the 1462 area as a stop, and with the potential to go back down and fill the gaps that we had from Monday.
Well, that's our show for today. Have a great trading day and have a great weekend. We'll talk to you guys on Monday.